all you devils. How you doing today? Happy Friday. Here we are, the 30th of August here. Of course, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin today. Now, members, you got a heavy dose of my partner's take on it last night with his webinar here. So I'm just going to fill in with some sort of continuation of some themes that I've been working through these last few videos here. So we'll do this with and without the Elliott here. So we'll start without. Just to get reference here, because if I'm over here, I don't want you guys to go, what are all those yellow lines about, right? So all I'm doing here is just taking the prior highs, which are there potentially to offer us some resistance. So you can see it's been, something that we caught perfectly here. This is the next one. Well, pardon me. The only exception is that right here, this pivot here where I'm pulling from this run here, which lines up perfectly with this pivot. So it's already been tested as support, well, in fact, twice. And then it's sitting right on the 38 and coincidentally right here at the Vegas wave. So I just wanted to put those in context before we got over here and dug in here. We're going to lose that perspective. Now, the other thing, let's not forget, right, what happened up here. So this is just a straight golden zone, and target down here at minus 700. So, let's just be mindful. We know we have a technical pivot here. So just putting this all in context. All right, so this is a 24-hour, I should say, this is a 24-hour. I'm on Coinbase, or Coinbase Pro, I guess we'd say now. So let's dig in here. Let's go, let's try a 4-hour here. See if we can make sense of some of this. Now, I know it gets crowded in here. There's a lot of lines. All right, so let me just pull a little bit off here, and we'll just recreate some of this. So, what have I got there? Yeah, that's the first one I want. Let me tighten this up here. Get it right on. You really do want these right on here. So sometimes just using the magnet tool can be helpful here. I thought I had done that. Sorry, get those right there. Okay, let's scrunch a little bit here. All right, so one thing that I have on here, I'm gonna take it off and put it back on here so you can see this. Okay, so we are sitting here now. I have the fib channel tool here, which I've been using lately here, and it's just a faster way rather than doubling or cloning the channel. And then of course I can put internal fib relationships in here, or not, or Gann, or whatever I wanted, right? I can do whatever I want here. So it's kind of a handy tool. Now again, I'm just connecting my critical pivots. I think I've got these right on there. Okay, so I'm getting these three pivots here, which are framing this and giving us all the downsloping trend lines, if you will, off of this per this channel. And all I'm doing here is I just used the internal fibs here to see, am I getting any confluence here? If I pull out a little bit, am I getting anything here that might be worthy of a reaction? So here, the whites are the 100, the red is the 50, the gold's the 618. I noticed the 887 caught this, and the 23.6. Yeah, we went through it a touch, but we caught very nice. So maybe in play here. Now, right, so we've kind of framed this out in terms of these potential areas of support and resistance. So there's two ways to approach it. We could look at this. Well, clearly this level has been this. What was that? 90, 96, been very important to the market. So if we just frame this here, just prior structure, just looking at remember this is relative to a pivot over here on the left. I can't even get there. But this is what's framing that. So you just letting the market define this little box here, and then we can see the low volume node that goes with it, as the market we've not had market acceptance here, something we've talked about before. Now, for projecting down here, well, a couple of different ways we can do it. So of course we could just use a typical measured move here, right, which we've looked at several times. We do get the break here. So so we have that break, but obviously the market reacted there. So is an adjustment to volatility? Some of the things we've thought about with regards to some of the things we're seeing in the S&P, where we've had very, very slight breaks. So it could be with increased volatility, they're accommodating this more. So one of the thoughts was perhaps they've moved to a 68 here as we go through the volatility. But we clearly had a reaction here, and here's the target down here, this green line. So if we're going down here, I wouldn't turn a blind eye to it simply because I have this break here. I'd want to keep an eye on that. So, it's tenuous with the break here, but I wouldn't, so conveniently sitting right at the point of control here. It's also in sync with we've drawn this up before. So lowest line here just being the absolute low. So if I just standard ops here, so I just do that so I don't have to go left to do it. So if I grab right on it. All right, so here's the 50 being defined here rather nicely. So let me take this one off just so we can see this. So here's the 50, swing low, swing high, just conveniently right in line with this. Here's our golden zone, and then again, perhaps conveniently right in line with prior structure here. So just this pivot, that's defining here. So we're getting the 50 and the golden zone here. So if we are going that low, I don't know that we are, but if we are going this low, I mean, this is a reasonable spot to be looking for a reaction at the very least. Swing low, swing high. We get to a 50. Right? It's, not rocket science. So, but now, is that the pivot? Well, interestingly here, depending on when we get there, if we're going to come down here and get there, something like that, then we'll catch that 618. But, shit, we could be here over the weekend. So you just don't know. But these are certainly, I want to be mindful of these levels, and the fact that the market is framing this out for me here is kind of interesting. So then the other thing that we looked at, which is Gann's technique. So we take the length of this first swing. So we get our double bottom here, but I'm going to use Gann's targets here, which are the 12.5 and the 2.5. So here, let me push it off to the side so you can see it. All right, for those of you not familiar with this, all right, so we're just taking the range. Here's the 50 of the range. Here's the 12.5, and here's the 2.5. All right, so that was one of his techniques. It's not sensitive to the internal retracement, so it's a handy way to approach it if you have something like this where we've had that break. Now, what you'll note is that they'll be relatively close. So if I pull, I gotta switch it back. So if I pull, let me go back to a measured move. If I pull the same swings, right? So one's a 23, one's a 23.6, one's a 25. So they're right on top of each other here. But what's the difference, right? So for the measured move, we've had a break of the 65. So but they both still give you this area down here. Well, let's call it 7,800 as our target, right? They're sitting on top of each other. So with that break here, it's a little more forgiving because we don't have a condition relative to the internal swing. We just have a projection should we break that low. Well, note here, right, so the framing of this, so we're getting the 12.5, or pardon me, let me get this off here so we can get that, so you can see it. So I better grab it here. So here's, if I put it here, right, here's the 12.5 on top of the 50, and then here's the 2.5. Well, I've got projections here. Well, let me get that off here. Just clear it up here. So here's the first range right here. There's the 2.5, pardon me, the 12.5, and here's the 2.5. So we've got this as a target zone down here using Gann's methodology here, and then this kind of lines up nicely with some of the other trend line support and things that we're seeing. And you could just be as simple as, oh, okay, well, I've got market acceptance over here, so I got lots of trading, buyers, sellers, all happy here, so we get the big volume profile spike, coincidentally, right? You tell me, right at the 25. So if I take this off, you can see this is a pretty good range here that we, in terms of targeting where this might be headed, and then put the whole thing back together. We use that, and then we get this on top of here. So do you see how this entire zone, as I've said before, if, and we don't know that it is, if Bitcoin is offered anywhere in here, man, that's not a bad place to be thinking about starting to accumulate. Maybe you're laddering in. So again, assuming, right, which we don't know, assuming we get down here to a 50, that might not be a bad place to start accumulating, knowing that it's very, very possible that there could be additional movement south. And so I might use each one of these references right up to the 65. So I wouldn't, are you trading it? Are you investing? If you come here to this 50 and you're a trader, well, I certainly wouldn't go heavy on the size there, knowing I've got reasonable targets down here and I may be averaging down that price. Now, you want to have a point where you say, okay, no more, I'm out. All right, and for me, that would be the 65 here. That would be a trend change off of the low. So if you're going to start accumulating in here, do the math on what that's going to look like all the way down here. So if your last fill would be right here, in this slight little front run off of the 618, which is again tied to this swing. Well, your stop's here. So the last one. So if that gave you an average price, so just here we can kind of do it in kind of a shorthand way. So if your average price is the middle, and we're just going to use some upper targets, stop under the 65. Well, we could just use the first target up here. It's about 7.5 to 1 if we get all the way up there. So 7.3 to 1. That's just going first target. We're going to get a big 3. What do we get there? That would be 14.5 to 1. So lots of upside potential. Of course, if we get there, if right, as I've shown this before, we'd have a golden corner if we get down here. So we don't need to draw that up. That will be a point of, what are we going to use? We're going to use the low. It could be tricky. All right, we're going to use the low. Well, interesting here. That would get the upper range here if we were going to use maybe the 2 or the swing before it goes up. All right, so that angle is not obvious. It's a little bit of a conundrum here. This is mighty steep and mighty distant. So what to use? Not sure I've got a good answer yet. We'll see. So let's see. Let's hope that would be a high-class problem, right? If we're able to buy down here and we get a pivot. But we're not there yet. Okay, so just to carry on here. So there has been some internal movement here that's been technical. So knowing we've got this zone down here, and we'll just call it from let's call it 8,500 to 7,300. So a pretty big zone down here that would be our buy zone. No Elliott Wave. Just this is if it's offered here, pay attention. So as we come down here now, let's go off the 4, or let me just I can just zoom in here. So again, because we're trying to keep the Elliott out and just use the market geometry and the relationship swing to swing. Well, yeah, I'm sure you guys have all done this, right? So from the swing high to the low, well, we get a nice 50. Now coming down here, right, so likely that's algo driven, right? So something along those lines here. I mean, that's not an unreasonable target here. We're just assuming that the algos that sold here are going to stay short and would take some profit here. That wouldn't make a big change in terms of where we're looking. If we were to get the pivot here, well, we'll come back here and consider some Elliott on this, but nothing says we must stop here. If we're going to go down to some of these lower targets, then here's where the Elliott may end up being helpful to us in terms of how far we go with regards to resolving however we're going to label this with our Elliott hats on. But for the time being, I think you can just use some broad strokes here. I mean, well, we've got a straight algo target right here. Right, that's potentially a place where we might that could be a front run. That's a pretty big front run here. But at that algo target, it'd be interesting if we were to hit here right in line with the 618 of that channel. But that would put us at 8,700. So that's a $200 front run. Maybe. And it would be that's really, so you'd have the 618 in the first algo target. The second is down here. There's more to look at, but then note here additionally you'd have, and I got to find them. Okay, so they're the Gann targets. So if I go here, all right, so here's the first one, here's the second one. So that would be right in the middle. So if I were to just draw it up again, here's the Gann target, the 2.5, and then the second algo target here. So if we're going to come down here again, right? If we come down here, people are going to be freaking out. But what is that doing? That's creating what I would tell you is going to be an opportunity. How about I say it that way? Let's not be dramatic. This would be an opportunity. As to how significant of an opportunity that becomes, well, that's a function of, do we pivot or are we going to pivot in this zone? Right? If we break that 65, maybe that's such a great opportunity. But I think in here you got to really consider. I mean, I'll be buying aggressively. I mean, just say it that way. All right. So that it's to each his own here. But if that's offered in this range, I'm accumulating. All right. So that said, let's go. I think there's much else here I can offer to this with regards to what we're looking at here, just in terms of the broad strokes and the market geometry. It hasn't changed a lot. Now, some of the channels we were looking at where we had connected some of this stuff here, looking for that intersection. Well, as we've broken down, of course, that's gone. So we've made some changes. Right now, it's all the trend angles are all lower. It's a series of lower highs, but we're not getting lower lows down here. We've had a double bottom. We broke the low here, but it's kind of, this is sloping down and then the support is sloping horizontally. So we're getting I don't think it warrants right now any sort of upsloping channel until we get some new pivots to work with. Right now, we are just in the lower zone here, right, as we drew it up before. We are in the lower zone of these targets. So we're coming to where previously support has shown itself. So don't assume, right? I know people are like, oh God, man, I hope I can buy Bitcoin down here under 8 grand. Don't assume we're getting there. Nothing says we must go there. Now, there's technical projections that give us targets down there, but I would not make that assumption that we must go down there. All right, so I think that covers. There's pretty much everything I can offer to you here prior to putting some Elliott on it. So let's go look at the Elliott count. And I'm over here on Bitstamp. Well, so you know, every Elliottician, you know, pro, amateur, just read the book is looking at this thinking WXY. That seems to be the consensus, and I don't disagree. Now, but is so typical with Bitcoin? This is sending you some mixed signals down here, because if I am at this point, I'm calling this the unknown swing. Right? It defies. You know, I'm sure there's a bunch of Elliotticians that give you a count there, but here's what I do know, right? 10 Elliotticians are going to give you 10 different counts there. I don't know what that is. You know, you want to go ABC, you want to go WXY, can't do a WXY within an A. It just defies labeling at this point in time. So rather than come up, just throw some labels up there, all I know is I've got a swing. That's as much as I'm willing to say right there. I've got a candidate here. So per the count, if it's WX and I'm looking for a Y, well, I'm looking for an ABC. So I'm just calling that the A, right? I'll let better Elliotticians than I come up and give me a count on that as to what that's going to be that's rules compliant. I don't know what it's going to be, but here's what I do know. I've got a swing. I've got to retrace to a 50. So if I'm looking for an ABC to finish that Y wave, well, I got to start on it. Now, here's the conundrum. It's so typical of Bitcoin. Let's go to 2 hours. We'll cut that in half. Okay. The unknowable swing. At least that's what I'm calling it. All right, so so I've got a candidate for a swing. I've got a 3-wave counter trend retracement to a 50. Well, what's typical Bitcoin? So I can get a clear 5 here. It's a funky, right, with that C, but I can get a 3 here. Now, this looks to me like we're just finishing up a zigzag here. 5, 3, sure looks like I've got the makings, and I'm not done yet. Sure looks like I've got the makings of a 5-3-5 there. So what's the problem with that? Well, I can't finish with that. I can't go A, B, C here. I need 5, and so I'm, you're looking at it going, all right, well, so what's the alternate, right? So the alternate is bad news, right? It's bad news for bulls, right? So let's think about what the alternate would be. Let's just, for the sake of discussion, say that comes down here and we complete, right? Well, if, right now, emphasis, if this is going to play as the B, we can't finish here. Now, so let's just play that through. So if this is the 1 and this is the 2, or pardon me, if this is the C, right? If this is an A and this is a B, and we're thinking, well, C, so 100, the 1272, that would be the most common. If we're thinking about just a zigzag, 1618, right? So you can look at that and say, well, hey, that target is right down here at the 1618, so maybe we're going farther. So we could have a kick in that 5, bring us down here. Still, I can't finish there. Right, per Elliott, right? I got to have 5 to finish that C. So the alternate, right? If you start mapping at that out, going, oh, okay, well, if that's gonna finish there, let's just, again, for the sake of the conversation here, and the analysis roadmap. Well, if I were to finish here, right, and get well, let's just say not necessarily finish, but I get a reaction here. What is that more likely to be? Right, that would be more likely we've just done a 1. So again, this is very, very assumptive. The assumption being if it's A, B, and if I'm labeling this as a 5, which I think is hard to argue with that. That looks a lot more like we're going to have to go this way. 1, 2. Now we're going to need so 3 here. Here's our high probability zone. 4, 5. Now let's get that degree up. Oh, we'll go minuet here. Okay, just so it's easy to spot. All right, so this already is a little problematic because, well, if this is 1, 2, we could, this would be longer than 1. We have a candidate here for a 3. So if this is going to be 1, this is 2, and this is going to be 3, well, we've got an impulse. We got the makings of an impulse. We're not resolved yet. So we could go 1, 2, 7, 2, right? If this 1, 2, right, we don't have to go to the 1, 6, 1, 8. We could, right? So that would be, if you were laying it out right by the book, we'd go this way. So maybe the 4 isn't done. Maybe we've got an extension in the 5. So you might look and say, well, would that even make sense? Well, so where's the 4? Right? We don't know that the 4 is in necessarily, right? 4 could still be going. So we could use the 1 through the 2. Well, here, interestingly, didn't quite make, if that's going to be our 3, right? And it's a little bit of a stretch, right? You can see the 3, 4, 5 at that degree, but we don't make the 1, 6, 1, 8. No? So perhaps we don't make the 1, 6, 1, 8 down here. Right? Nothing says we must go there. Remember, there's the algo target sitting right there. So perhaps we don't make it, and we do the 2, 7, 2, just as here we got just past the 1, 2, 7, 2. So this, again, so now that's assuming that we're going to have a fairly good move here in the 5th to bring us down here. That puts us at 8,800. That would set up the 3, right? The 4 and the 5. Right, so just using just typical number. I know it's a lot of lines, so let me clear some of this out. So let's take this off. Okay, so if we get a 3 down here, right, so that's relative at the higher degree. So if I get my 3 down here, well, here's a reasonable spot to be looking for it. So the looks like, and now could be here. We could finish right there. Would give us an algo target. So swing length of the 3, get a 38 on the retrace, would come back into. Right, always look left, would come back into this structure, so it could be something as simple as just that. Right, here we'd be on the lower edge here, so here's one standard deviation, right? So we'd be on the edge of that on the volume profile. Now again, first, we don't know that the 4 is in, so it's a little, but that's kind of what I'm watching, and then of course we'd have a perfect setup here for a channel. All right, all of that would be lined up rather nicely here. So now if you pull back out on that, let's see if we can make that work. All right, so that would give us a clean finish here to our WXY. All right, again, we don't know. All right, so that's just a candidate here. Well, I guess this would be the C here. Candidate for the Y here. All right, so we'd be finishing. Let's get all that out of here. Let's get all that out of here. So we'd be finishing that A, B, C. From this X, we'd be finishing A, B, C. All right, so now let's go back to that 4 hour, see how that looks. Get back here. Here's my low. Let's just double check here. So, all right, so I don't have to go all the way left. Right on there. Okay, up to my high. Well, now let's put all that back together. So this would be the area we'd be looking for right in here between the 50. Well, so you can see the 50 and the first target are right there. Here down here lower. Here's 100%. Yeah, let's see. I know it gets hard to see, guys. So here's length of the W projected from the X. Here's 100% of that right here at the 2618 from the 1, 2. So this would be an area down here as well. So let's just wick that off. This is a contender. Now note we get second algo target right there as well. All right, so we got a contender down here, and then if we're going to get a 1618, remember we know that 100 will be a shorthand, but look at that sitting right here at the golden zone. So is that where we're going? Well, again, that puts us right back into all of that tees up. Right, where are we looking for the 2? Assuming, right, again, assuming we're calling this a 1, and I'm just going swing low to swing high. Well, the most common place we'd be looking for that retracement. So all of that work that we just put into to get a pivot on here is right smack dab in the middle of that range, which is, I would call that a significant opportunity for anyone trading in crypto. All right, not to be, melodramatic about it, but that could be your last chance, right? I mean, here's what you're swinging for the fence, right? So no question about it. If that's going to be, if this plays as 1-2, and we're able to buy here again, I would anywhere in that range start accumulating, right, all the way to the 65. If that is going up, if this is going to trade as a 1-2, and that's going to be our 1, which is right, that's my count, that's my longer term, right? I'm a mega bull, right? Most people know that. If we're going up here to get this 3, just that 3 has us at new all-time highs, right? That's 25K. Nothing, no rocket science there, just simple Elliott, right? Length of the 1. Now, I don't have the 2. We could use the 618. Right? Assuming it's going to go deeper and it's going to freak everybody out. Well, so there's your, so you'd be buying down here at, let's call it 7,200 with a target of 25,000. If you're trading crypto, how are you not taking that trade, right? I mean, as far that could be the trade of your lifetime. So that's what I really think. Maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud. That's what I think. It could be the trade of my lifetime. All right, how about that for a little something to chew on over the weekend? All right, guys, that'll give you lots to ponder. All right, we're going to do, I think Ethereum was the next choice here. So I'll be back with a little more. All right, there you go.